Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everyone today? Can everyone hear me? If you can hear me, please type a yes. If you cannot hear me, please type an N. You please type a yes, a Y. If you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, please type an N. Yes. Morning, Rayo. Morning, Steve. My name is Gopolang, Hopolang. I'm going to be doing a presentation of the webinar for you guys today. And today we are going to be focusing on indicators. Right? We're going to be focusing on doing indicators. How do indicators actually work? And how can you best use them in your analysis of the markets in order for you to be in a better position to actually place a trade, a higher probability profit making trade, that is, because we can all place trades, but at the end of the day, we want the requirements of the results that we should be seeing, meaning we want to make a profit. So indicators are one of the things which are very much important and helpful in confirming an analysis that we are supposed to be doing. Indicators form part and parcel of technical analysis. As you all know, we have two kinds of analysis that we do in the market. There's fundamental analysis, which focuses on the news about certain companies or the news about the markets, which can basically influence how we make a decision on whether to buy or to sell. And from the basis of those news, technical analysis will be basically seeing the reflection of the behavior of people after getting those news. So if the news are good, then we are looking at a possible chance of buying. If the news are bad, we are looking at a possible chance of selling. But in any case, technical analysis is one of the instruments with we should be in a position to understand, and indicators help us to actually confirm what is it that the behavior of people or the overall market bias, what is it looking at? Is the overall market bias on the buying side, or is the overall bias of the market on the selling side? Like you all know, the one thing that we do not want to establish in this particular market is we do not want to sell when the overall market bias is a buy. So indicators are one of the instruments which basically help us to actually see what the overall market bias is. Now, one of the most important things that we need to understand with regards to indicators is one. Uh, the main purpose of an indicator is to give you a signal. So you're supposed to see a signal of what the overall market bias is so that you are in a better position to make a decision on whether you're going to be buying or selling. And at the very same time, you need to pinpoint exactly which is the likeliest or most possible area to actually buy or sell the share based on the overall market bias, because we do not want to be placing trades on a market which is currently moving, but we do want to plan for a possible entry for when the market actually reaches that particular area there. And indicators are one of those instruments to actually give us those certain levels that we can actually decide to purchase or sell a share at any given moment. Now, before I go into the other indicators which show us the overall market bias that we will be looking at, so today we are going to be looking at the Bollinger Bands, how to use them, and how to actually see signals from the Bollinger Bands of the overall market bias. And I'm going to be covering the RSI, which is going to be the relative strength index as well. So I'm going to be covering those two indicators. So I'm going to give you the theoretical view of how they work. At the very same time, I will show you in application format, if I was to analyze a share using those two indicators, how will I best be in a position to actually say this particular share here is a buy or a sell, given that the signals between the Bollinger Bands and the RSI are giving me the same results. At the very same time, we will try and see from our analysis using those particular indicators whether we can actually spot fake signals. And now a fake signal is when one indicator is giving you an overall market bias of a buy, and another indicator is basically telling you that we are currently going to be selling. So those are some of the things that we will be looking at using those two indicators, the Bollinger Band and the RSI. Now my internet here was down. Let me try and log in again so that we can continue. Now, one of the indicators which is very much important and people always overlook it is the lines that basically separates our different movements on the chart. And most of the people usually omit using these particular lines here, but these lines are very much important because they always show us a movement of the share over a period of time. Now, if you neglect looking at the movement of a share over a period of time, you may be in a position to actually take a wrong position as opposed to a right position, because you did not analyze your market properly to see that during this particular time which we are looking at, did the market move up, did the market move down, or did the market just move sideways? Now, it is one of the most important instrument that you have. Now, for those that do not have this particular indicator here, now let me delete my indicator. Let me delete the indicator there. So that I am better in a position to actually show you, and you can also follow me at the same time. Now, uh, logging again. Now, as you can see at this particular moment, my chart is plain. My chart does not have any lines. It's just candlestick and it's plain. Now, when you look at this chart here, when it's plain like this, you can see the movement of the share. Now, on my chart right now, I have the share Sanlam, SLM, CFD, and I am on the 1-day chart, right? I'm on the 1-day chart, and the share code is SLM, standing for Sanlam. So this is where everything starts. Now, my chart is plain. Now, the indicator that I want you to put in, if you do not have it, you will go down to where the dates are at this current stage. Now, from where the dates are, I want you to right click on the dates. When you right click on the dates, when you right click on the date, you are supposed to see a block that pops up. It says show time periods separators. It says show holes in the history, and it says show extended sessions. Now, what I'm interested in as an indicator for the movement of our price over a period of time is this show time periods separators. Now, as you can see, my show time period separators, all these show days separator, show weeks separator, show months separator, and show years separator, they are all unticked. Now, I want to tick all of these because it's going to be very much helpful. Now, I just ticked on show days separator. Now I'm ticking on show weeks separator. I go back, I right click again. I tick show months separator. I click again and I go to show yes separator, right? Now, after ticking all of that, now looking at my chart right now, I will zoom in. Looking at my chart right now, I have green lines which are currently separating my chart. I have green lines and I have this brown or orange line there, which is also separating my chart. Now, what do these lines mean? As you can see, I'll start with this particular orange line here. This orange line at the bottom is written year or Y and standing for 2018. What this shows you is the beginning of 2018 has just started, and we are looking at the movement within this particular, after the orange line going towards this green line here. I'm looking at the movement of the month of January. So looking at this particular share here, Sanlam, this is what we are looking at. We are looking at the movement which took place over the month of January. Now, the green line which comes after this particular orange line, at the bottom it's written M and it stands for February. So from the green line going towards the next green line, that will be the movement of the month of February. Now, if I'm going to be analyzing, these particular lines are very much important for me in a sense that if I can pinpoint whatever happened over the month of February, I can be in a better position to predict what is likely going to happen over the month of March, because I want to be trading over the month of March knowing exactly what happened over the previous month. Now, as you can see, this is the current month here, the current month of May for the share price of Sanlam. The month of May, this is the first candle of the month of May. This is the last candle over the month of May, which is the day of Friday. And as you can see, before May, we are having the month of April right here. Now, my prediction for this current month of May has to be based on whatever has happened or whatever took place over the previous month. That means that now when we are doing the RSI indicator and the Bollinger Bands themselves, we are going to be looking at, did we or did we not get a buy or a sell signal over the previous month, so that I'm in a better position to predict whatever is going to happen over the current month. Now, does anyone have a question currently before I start with my Bollinger Bands? Does anyone have a question so far? Any questions before I continue with my Bollinger Bands, or is everyone fine up to now? Yes, please type in your question. If you do have a question, please type in your question. So, indicators. Okay, so while I'm waiting for you guys to type a question, I will start with the indicator known as the Bollinger Bands, right? Now, the Bollinger Band is one of the most important indicators that we have in the market. Why? Because it's a trend following indicator. From a trend following indicator, it also measures the amount of volatility which we will be having in the market as well. Now, we always want to know whether there is a huge amount of volatility or whether there is a capped amount of volatility, more especially in two different areas, an area of support and an area of resistance. Now, according to the definition of support and resistance, an area of support is an area at lower prices where a share has a possibility of changing direction. Okay, with regards to the time and the analysis, I will get back to that when I finish or when we still have time. But for now, I just want to focus on what kind of signals can we actually get in order for us to make a decision. Remember that one of the most important things in our market or in trading itself or from technical analysis is actually making a decision of whether you would like to buy or whether you would like to sell. The time frame per se is very much important, but the time frame differs from trader to trader. So what is most important is, can I spot a signal, and from the signal can I actually make a decision on whether I need to be buying or whether I need to be selling. So with regards to the Bollinger Band, if I may continue, the Bollinger Bands are a trend following indicator that we place on our main chart. Now, we want to ideally see whether we have a signal of a buy or whether we have a signal of a sell. So that means that from the Bollinger Bands themselves, either a share is going to be kept, or the volatility of a share is going to be kept, or the volatility of a share is actually going to increase. Now, the indicator itself actually gives us a clue as to how do we spot the whether the volatility is kept or whether the volatility has actually increased, because the increasing in volatility is basically a signal, and the capping of volatility of a share is actually a non-signal. So when a share is not capped inside the volatility, or if the volatility of a share is capped, that means that the market is most probably moving sideways, or it is most probably thinking of changing its direction. So if it was going up and we are capping the volatility of the share, that means we have a higher probability of changing the direction of the share price. Now, these indicators focus highly on support and resistance. Now, from the definition, an area of support is an area or at lower prices where a share has a possibility of changing direction. Now, I've just mentioned a very important keyword in the definition: possibility. That means that if I have an area of support which is at lower prices, there's a possibility that a share may continue by breaking support, or it may change direction at the very same area of support. Now, when a share breaks, then the Bollinger Bands need to show us something. When a share does not break or change direction at support, the very same Bollinger Bands need to show us what is the signal for us to be in a position to say there's a likelihood that the share is going to change direction. Now, an area of resistance in this instant is an area at higher prices where the share has a possibility of actually changing direction. Again, the Bollinger Bands are supposed to show us when that very same area of resistance is broken, or whether the share is likely going to change direction at the very same area of resistance. Now, to place an indicator onto your main chart, what you will do is you will click at the top there where I have exit full screen. There is a square root of a candle, and when I put my cursor on that square root of a candle, it says add indicator. Now I will click on that particular square root of a candle. When the next block pops up, here on the search block, I will just type in B. I will just type in another B for an instance. So BB. When I have BB, it says here channels 2, and then I have BB, which is Bollinger Bands, and I have BBF, which is Bollinger Bands flat. Now, it is always important to know what the difference between this BB Bollinger Bands and the BBF Bollinger Bands flat. Now, if you are using a mobile meaning a cell phone or a tablet, that means your option on the Bollinger Bands, you won't be choosing the BB, which stands for Bollinger Bands. You'll be choosing the BBF, which is the Bollinger Bands flat. But if you are using your laptop or your computer, you'll be using this option of BB, which is the Bollinger Bands. Now remember, if you are using the mobile, you choose Bollinger Bands flat. If you are using the laptop or computer, you'll be choosing the Bollinger Bands. Now I will click on the BB and click on OK. Now the next block that pops up, it is now where we need to be looking at placing the periods. Now with my Bollinger Bands, I want my Bollinger Bands indicator to basically give me signals over a 20-day period, because in a single month, remember that we trade for 21 days. Now, I want this particular indicator here to give me or to calculate for me the average price movement over a 20-day period. Now, here where it says period of moving average for envelopes, I will be choosing 20. That means the Bollinger Bands will be tracking the movement of my share price over a space of 20 days. And here where it says value of confidence interval, I will be putting in the number 2. So 20 and 2 are the default settings for the Bollinger Band indicator. Now, after putting in my 20 and 2, I will be saying OK. And on my screen right now, you are supposed to be looking at my Bollinger Bands. Now, the Bollinger Band is a 3-line indicator. So it gives me a top line, it gives me a middle line, and it also gives me a green line at the bottom. Now, what you need to understand and what you need to know about these 3 lines is that these 3 lines have a specific level of importance which we have to always take into consider. Now, when I would start with the middle line first as opposed to the top lines. Now, why do I start with the middle line with regards to the Bollinger Band? It's because the middle line is one of the most important lines that we have with regards to the Bollinger Band indicator. Why is it one of the most important, if not the most important line? It is simply because this is what is known as a moving average. Now, this moving average here, what it does is it tracks the trend of the share over a period of 20 days. So I'm supposed to be looking at over a period of 20 days, what is the actual movement or what is the trend of a share? Is the trend of a share coming down or is the trend of a share actually going up? Because if the trend of the share is coming down, ideally what you would like to do is to go short on the share. If the trend of the share is going up, what you want to do is buy that share. Now, the most important entry line with regards to the Bollinger Band is also the middle line. So our moving average, because it tracks the trend, what you always want to do is to always buy or sell the share depending on the trend at the moving average. You do not want to be buying or selling the share anywhere else besides if it is at the very same moving average that we see right there. So our gray line, let me see if I can type it into the screen there so that you can take notes. So our gray line there, it is our moving average indicator. So this is our moving average. I'll use, this is our moving average, which is the gray line. Now, the gray line again, what is its importance? The importance of the gray line is it gives you an entry. So I'll start by saying it gives us the trend of the share, the trend of price of the share. That is the very first point that you can pinpoint with regards to the moving average. It gives us the trend of the share. The second thing that it gives us, it is an entry point. It is also our entry point for whether we would ideally like to buy the share or whether we would like to be selling the share itself. So this is one of the most two important things that our middle line of the Bollinger Bands actually shows us. So our moving average, which is the middle line of the Bollinger Bands, it shows us the trend of the share on whether the share price is going higher and higher or whether the share price is going lower and lower. And at the very same time, if I can pinpoint the trend of price of a share, I can also use the middle line of the Bollinger Bands as my point of entry for buying or selling the actual share itself. Now, that is the moving average, or that is our middle line of the Bollinger Band. Now, the other lines, which is the top line and the bottom line, now, those two lines are known as volatility bands. So the red line at the top, that is our upper, volatility band. That is our upper volatility band there. That is the top line. And the bottom line, which is our green line, I hope you guys can see clearly here. The bottom line is going to be our lower volatility band. That is going to be our lower volatility band in this instant here. So I have just explained the middle line, which is our moving average, which tracks the trend of the share, or tracks the trend of price of a share, and it also gives us a perfect entry points where we need to enter. Now, the top line and the bottom line of our Bollinger Bands indicator. The top line is our upper volatility band, and the green line at the bottom is our lower volatility band. Now, what is important with regards to these two lines, the upper and the lower volatility bands? They're more, their importance is one. Now, with the upper volatility band, the upper volatility band basically tells us that, or they are, or it is our buy, it is our buy signal line. It is our buy signal line, which is the upper volatility band. Is our buy signal line, and the green line at the bottom will be our sell, signal line. Will be our sell signal line there. So the upper volatility band is our buy signal line. The lower volatility band is our sell signal line. So what does this mean? It means that if share price goes outside the lower volatility band, that share price moving outside the lower band basically gives us a signal that the overall market bias is actually on the selling side. So the market is actually selling, the market is not buying. So we have to look at a situation where if price does go outside the lower volatility band, that means the overall bias of the market is a sell. That means that now it's a prepare a sell, do not sell when the share price is currently moving outside our lower volatility band. But where are you going to enter for a sell or for a short in your trade after getting a signal? You will be entering into the moving average. So you need to wait for the share to go back to the moving average. Like I've identified, it is a trend, or the moving average follows the trend of price, and at the very same time it is our entry area. So when the share gives you a signal by breaking the lower volatility band, you first need to wait for the share to go inside the very same band, go towards the moving average. When we get to the moving average, it is then that you can decide to sell the share, given that the share itself does not go above the moving average. So the share needs to go towards the moving average, but does not go above the moving average, it still sticks below the moving average, then you sell the share. Now, the upper volatility band, what does it mean to us when I say that it is a buy signal line? It is a buy signal line, and how do you spot that signal? The share itself needs to go outside the upper volatility band, which is the red line at the top. When it does that, then we know that we have a buying signal for that share. When we have a buy signal for that share, we do not immediately buy into the share. Instead, we wait for the share to go back inside the upper volatility band, going towards the moving average. When it gets to the moving average, it is then that we buy the share from that particular moving average there. And that is how, in a nutshell, the Bollinger Bands actually work. So if you do understand the Bollinger Bands, then you are in a position to actually understand that the top line is an upper volatility band and it's a signal giver for a buy, given that the share price has to be moving outside, or it needs to break the line and moving outside, then that is a buy signal for us. But before we can buy, we can only enter for that buy if the share does go to the moving average. The lower volatility band in this instant is our sell signal line, meaning that the share has to go outside the lower volatility band, then we have a sell signal. But if I do want to go short, I have to wait first for the share price to go to the moving average. When it gets to the moving average, then I know that I need to be selling the share at that particular area there. The moving average, which is our middle line in this instant, that is our trend following indicator, where it follows the movement of price. Is price going up or is price coming down over a particular period of time? Now, and again, if it's a trend following indicator, it is also our entry point when I am using the Bollinger Bands, or when I'm using the Bollinger Band indicator. So is there any question with regards to what I have just explained with regards to the three lines that we find on the Bollinger Band? Is there any question that I can quickly answer with regards to the Bollinger Bands themselves? Is there any question with regards to the Bollinger Bands? Okay, there are no questions so far. So let us continue and analyze our shares using the Bollinger Bands and the very first lines that we have basically put in our graph. Because with regards to the lines and using the Bollinger Bands, that is when now you can basically start to see that with regards to the time frame that you choose, how do you actually use the Bollinger Bands with the time frame that you actually have, or the time frame that you are using to analyze your share. So now I will start with, do you guys have a share in mind that I can analyze using my Bollinger Bands here? Do you guys have a share that I can analyze using the Bollinger Bands? PIK, Pick and Pay. Okay, I will analyze Pick and Pay now. Let me just log in here. So I will type in PIK, Pick and Pay. Now, I am going to be analyzing the share of Pick and Pay using a one-day chart, and I will start first by identifying my support, my resistance with regards to Pick and Pay, and I will now go into confirm or see what kind of signal do I have from my Bollinger Bands themselves. Now, the Bollinger Bands, let's start first with identifying my area of support and my area of resistance using my plain chart. right? So I'm going to be looking at the plain chart before I can go into the Bollinger Bands indicator. Remember what I said about an indicator. An indicator is an instrument which is supposed to give you a signal on whether we are either buying or whether the overall market bias is a buy or whether the overall market bias is a sell. Now, I will start first by looking at my lines there, which is my very first indicator. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line on the highest point, which was reached over the month of March. We are currently sitting on the month of May, so I'm going to draw a line on the highest point which was reached over the month of March. So that particular high price which was reached over the month of March, that is my area of resistance which was established. Now, if you can see, I'm going to extend my line here. Going to extend my line going towards January. So I drew my line on the highest point of March. But as you can see, when I extend my line, the month of February's highs are the same as the month of March's highs. And as you can see again, the month of January's highs is also similar to the month of March's highs. So with regards to the share price of Pick n Pay, the highs of January, February, and March were similar, right? They were all similar right there. Now I will draw my other line on the lowest point, which was reached in the month of March, right? The lowest point which was reached over the month of March. As you can see, the bottom blue line that I have there, that was the lowest point which was reached over the month of March. Now that would be my area of support for the month of March, right? That is my area of support for the month of March. So I'm looking at this particular area here. If you can see my cursor, I'm looking at this particular area there, the movement of March going towards April. The top line there is our resistance for the month of March. The bottom line is our support for the month of March. Now, let us see what activity actually took place over the month of April with regards to PIK. Now, as you can see, the movement of April with regards to the share price of Pick n Pay went above. The share price went above the resistance that we had for the month of March. When the share price went above, as you can see, when the share price went above that particular resistance, the share price started to move outside the upper volatility band of our indicator, which is the Bollinger Bands, as you can see there. So this share price actually went outside the upper volatility band of the Bollinger Bands. Now, remember what I said from the explanation. The moment your share price starts to move outside the upper volatility band of the Bollinger Bands, that is a buying signal. But this particular buying signal, or the buyers of the market, it's a strong signal given that the share price is going outside the upper volatility band while at the very same time moving above our area of resistance, which was there in March. So April, as you can see here, April gave us a buying signal when we use the Bollinger Bands. But remember, if I was to buy the share, am I going to be buying the share on the movement outside the upper volatility band? No. I need to be waiting for the share to go towards the moving average, which is our middle gray line there. Now, as you can see, the share price of Pick n Pay is currently moving downwards to go and test the resistance line. Now, every single time you break an area of resistance, before you can move even higher, you need to come back and test it. So we are looking at a situation of this nature here. The share goes up, it breaks. The share goes up, this blue line, the share goes up, it breaks our resistance line there. Maybe let me change the color of here. So my black line is the share price movement breaking our area of resistance from the previous month of March. At the very same time now, after breaking, the share is also moving outside the upper volatility band, which is a signal that the overall market bias for this share PIK is a buy and it is not a sell. But before I can buy the share, I will not be buying the share on the movement going above. I will wait for the share to come back. So the share needs to move in this format here. So the share needs to come back to the very same. I'll give this one the color red. There you have it. The share needs to come back to our area of resistance, which was broken. Now, when this current movement going towards the resistance which was broken over the previous month of April, that means that now the share needs to meet with the moving average, which is our entry point indicator, at the very same resistance. Now, for the share to go even higher now, for us to have a buy at this particular area there, for us to have a buy, I'll have it a buy. For us to have a buy at this particular area there, where our share will be meeting up with the moving average, our share must never go down below our moving average. If our share crosses the moving average and continues going down, then we may possibly have to wait on the sidelines, because the share, by it breaking the moving average, it signals that the share can still come further lower before it can decide to change direction. But if it does change direction at the area of resistance where the moving average is currently at right now, then we can safely take our buy position around these areas of 75. Where would our target be? Our target will have to be at our April high. We draw a line at April highs. The April highs are 82.15. So my April highs will basically be my take profit. So I'll be looking at an entry, a possible entry using the Bollinger Bands, because I have a buy signal. I will be looking at an entry point at 75, looking at a target at 82, and looking at a stop loss below 75. Maybe you can make it around 73, or maybe you can make it around 72.50. So our stop loss will obviously be below our moving average. That means that if you are breaking the moving average going down, you are most likely going to be headed to the lower volatility band. And that is how my analysis for Pick and Pay and using the actual Bollinger Bands indicator actually go by. Is anyone understanding how the analysis with regards to Pick and Pay using a one-day chart and using the Bollinger Bands indicator actually came out, or how did it come out to be? Is there any question with regards to the analysis itself? Any question with regards to the analysis and the indicator? Understand. Okay. So it looks like most people understand how the indicator gave us a signal of seeing what the overall market bias was and what is supposed to happen with regards to the share price before I actually go into the trade. So the share price of Pick and Pay, remember, you need to be looking at areas of around 75, which is much as a resistance, which was broken in April, for us to get a signal before you can enter into a share for a buy. So that is how you will be looking at your shares when you are using your Bollinger Bands indicators. Now, to pair up these particular Bollinger Bands indicators and get further confirmation of what the overall market bias would be, now I would be looking at the RSI, or the relative strength index. Again, the relative strength index is an indicator which measures the momentum of the market itself and also it is supposed to give us a signal on what the overall market bias is. Is the overall market bias in the buying side, or is the overall market bias on the selling side? So I'm going to be pairing up the Bollinger Bands, and I'm also going to be putting in the RSI indicator. Now, when I am using those two indicators, I will be seeing exactly how those two indicators will be differing, and if there is any possible fake movement which actually took place, and the one which was never meant to be. Because remember what the market does, the market can easily create a fake movement, and if it does create a fake movement, you need to be in a better position to can say this is actually not a buy signal from the Bollinger Band, given that the RSI on the other hand is telling me something different. Now again, how you put an indicator, let me go back to my Sunlam. Let me log in. I seem to be having a system problem, so let me log in again. Now I am on Sunlam, where I actually wrote down the different areas of the Bollinger Bands. Now I'm going to be putting in the RSI indicator. So I'm going to go to the square root of a candle. I will click on it. Here where I need to search, I will type in RSI. And there I have oscillators, and it says 2 there. The RSI relative strength index. Down below it says stochastic times RSI. Now I do not want the stochastic and the RSI indicators combined. I only want the RSI indicator. So this RSI relative strength index is the one that I'm going to choose. Now if you are using a mobile, I think that you get your RSI indicator on the option of index, if I'm not mistaken. On the option of index, I think that is where your RSI indicator is going to be. So by choosing the RSI indicator, now the next block basically gives me the option of basically putting in the period of my RSI and putting in the period of the moving average. Now my period of the RSI indicator is going to be 21, right? I want the indicator to give me the average price movement, or the performance, or the bias of the market over a period of 21 days for my RSI indicator. And the period of moving average, I want the period of my moving average to be 20. Now this 20 is basically saying what? It's saying the moving average on my RSI indicator is supposed to be matching the movement of my middle line, or the moving average on my Bollinger Bands, so that I do not see contradicting information with regards to the moving average from the Bollinger Bands and from the RSI itself. So let me just change the color, because I know there are some lines which are not being seen well. So there I have it. So at the bottom there, so let me increase the screen there. At the bottom here now, this particular indicator there, it is my RSI indicator. The dark green line that you see there, so the dark green line that you see there, I'll just type in there, that is your RSI indicator. That is your RSI indicator, the dark green line. The dark green line is your RSI indicator. There you have it, the relative strength index. The black line that you see on the very same indicator, that is your moving average. So we have our moving average here, which is our black line that you have it there. You will have this black line as the color light blue. It will be light blue. That is the standard color that it comes with. Now mine, I have changed my color from standard light blue to a black line there, so that it can be visible for you guys there. Now this black line there is my moving average. Now I've already identified 2 points. The dark green line is your RSI indicator, and the black line is your moving average within the RSI indicator itself. Now, since that is my 2 lines, these very same 2 lines are very, very much important for us to actually analyze. But what is again most important is within the RSI indicator, there are certain particular areas that we need to look at, because those are areas which give us a signal on whether the overall market bias is on the selling side or whether the overall market bias is on the buying side. Now, I have 2 lines. I have a red line at the top and I have a red line, a blue line at the bottom. We can identify these 2 lines now as our volatility again bands or our volatility lines. So these are our volatility line. This is the upper one. The volatility line, I'll just write upper there. Volatility line upper. That is the red line at the top. The blue line at the bottom is our volatility line. I'll just write bottom. All right, volatility line bottom. So the red line at the top is our volatility line, the upper volatility line. The blue line at the bottom is our volatility line at the bottom. Now, what is the significance of these 2 lines there? The red line at the top, it says 70, our upper volatility line. The blue line at the bottom is our 30 line, which is the bottom line. Now, the upper volatility line on our RSI indicator, what does it say? That means if our RSI indicator is trading above our upper volatility line on the RSI, we tend to say that the share is overbought. Right? We tend to say that the share is overbought there. This is our overbought zone if our RSI indicator is currently moving above our upper volatility line. And if our RSI indicator is moving below our 30 line or our bottom volatility line, then we tend to say that our share has been oversold. Now, you need to be very careful with regards to loosely using these terms overbought and oversold, because when our RSI indicator is moving above our upper volatility line, which is overbought, it does not mean that the share has been overbought. We need to start selling. Right? It does not mean that the share has been overbought. We need to start selling. What it basically tells you that it is basically saying that the overall market bias is on the buying side. So you need to start looking for buying opportunities instead of looking for selling opportunities. So our overbought in this actual format, or the application of this overbought terms, is basically saying that you need to be preparing to buy the share instead of preparing to sell the share. So that means that if we go to our bottom volatility line, which is signaling oversold, given that the RSI moves below 30, it does not mean that you need to start thinking of buying the share because it's oversold. You need to be starting to think of buying, selling the share. You need to be looking for selling opportunities as opposed to buying opportunities. Now, those are the 2 areas there. Now, there are 2 other factors within this very same RSI indicator which you should be looking at. Now, that is the point of 60. So I'll put a line at 60 there. The point of 60. So I have a 60 line there. I have again another 40 line there. All right, I will be explaining what these lines mean to us. I have a 60 line, I have a 40 line, and then I have a 50 line. So I'll be putting in a 50 line. I'll make it the color black. So I have 3 lines which I've just put on my RSI indicator right now. The one at the top, which is the blue line, is at the 60 point. The one in the middle, which is the black line, is at the 50 point, and the one at the bottom, which is the another blue line, is at the 40 point. Now, what do these lines mean? Now, usually when we have our indicators like this, the area between the 70 and the 30 is said to be the neutral zone, right? It is said to be the neutral zone of our indicator. But now, you taking it as the neutral zone, you will be confused as to exactly what must I do with respect to this particular neutral zone. Now, obviously, we think of it this way. For a share to be overbought, buying needs to start somewhere. For a share to be oversold, selling needs to start somewhere. That means within this area of the neutral zone here, that is where exactly we need to be pinpointing where does the selling of the share start and where does the buying of the share start before our RSI indicator reaches overbought or reaches oversold. Now, above the 50 line, so above the 50 line going towards so from 50 going towards 70, that is an area, or that is our buy zone, right? That is our buy zone. So from 50 going towards, I'll put it here, from 50 going towards 70, or over 70, right? So from 50, let me put the sign greater. I can't find it. So from 50 going towards 70, let's put it that way. From 50 going towards 70, that is our buy zone, as you can see there. So I'll put buy zone from 50 going towards 70, and then from 50 again, or 49, sell zone. Our sell zone is from 50, from 50 going towards 30. From 50 going towards 30, it's our sell zone, right? So please take down those notes like that. I've typed them down for you. So from 50 going towards 70, we have a buy zone. So that means that is where the beginning of our buying starts. And then from 50 going towards 30, that is our sell zone. That means that our RSI is actually going down towards 30. That is where the beginning of our selling process actually starts before the share can be oversold. Now from 50 going towards 70, that is the beginning of our buy going towards the share being overbought. So that is the basically the description of our RSI indicator and the different zones of knowing exactly where the buying starts, where the selling starts, up until the share gets overbought or up until the share gets oversold. Now, from this particular instance, again, what really happens is what? What really happens with regards to this indicator here is we need to now identify how do we get a signal from this particular indicator to say exactly from my RSI indicator, do I have a sell signal for me to start thinking of selling this share, or do I have a buying signal for me to start deciding to buy this share? Now, what usually takes place with regards to the RSI indicator? We want our RSI indicator, which is the dark green line, to actually go overboard, when the moment our RSI indicator goes overboard, then we are having a signal of a buy, meaning that the overall market bias is on the buying side. I must never think of selling the share. I need to be thinking of buying the share, right? I need to be thinking of buying the share. Now, where are you going to be buying this share? You are going to be buying this share on the buying zone. That means you first wait for your RSI indicator to go towards the 50 level. When it gets to the 50 level, then you buy the share from there. That means that if I'm going to be pairing my buy for the RSI and the Bollinger Bands, that means on the Bollinger Bands, my share will be going outside the upper volatility band. Now, for me to enter into the share for a buy, my RSI needs to be at 50. My share on the Bollinger Bands needs to be at the moving average. Then I have a proper buy signal for me to actually buy into that share. Now, for a sell signal using the RSI, your RSI indicator need to be below 30 or below the bottom volatility band, which is our oversold area. I must never think of a buy when our indicator is there. I need to be thinking of selling the share, but before I can sell the share, I need to wait first for my RSI indicator to go towards 50. That means that on my Bollinger Bands, our share will be going towards the moving average. Then from there, I will actually sell the share from there. So let's go back to our Pick and Pay, and let's finish off our analysis of Pick and Pay using the RSI indicator plus the Bollinger Bands themselves. Now, our analysis from our RSI, from our Bollinger Bands. Remember, we said that Pick and Pay on the month of April broke through our resistance of March, thereby the share price also moving outside our upper volatility band of the Bollinger Bands, giving us a buy signal. But before we can buy the share, we need to wait for the share to go down towards the very same area of resistance where it will meet with our middle moving average, which is our entry point if I'm using the Bollinger Band. So that would be a buy zone for me there around the areas of 75. Now, looking at our RSI indicator to confirm what we have analyzed from our main chart, our RSI indicator, the moment our Bollinger Bands were giving us a signal for a buy, as you can see, our RSI indicator was in the buy zone going towards the 70 point. Now, it did reach our 70 point, did touch our 70 point, which is our overbought zone. Now, our RSI indicator also gave us a buy signal by touching the area of 70, which is our overbought zone. Now, what are we waiting for? We are still waiting for our share to reach our area of resistance, which is our area of entry, which is going to be at the middle line or our moving average in the Bollinger Bands. Whilst, as you can see, our RSI indicator is busy going towards the area of 50 before we can start buying the share. So anything above 50, where it is going to be our moving average or area of resistance, which has just turned into support on the Bollinger Bands, will be a confirmed buy for the share price of Pick and Pay. So our RSI indicator is giving us the same signal as the Bollinger Bands on our main chart right there. So Pick and Pay is a confirmed buy, looking at how we have just analyzed our indicator right there. Is there any question so far? Is there any questions so far? Is there any questions? So everyone is clear up to this extent. you saw how we used the Bollinger Bands to pinpoint a buy signal from the share of Pick and Pay, and we also pinpointed where is our most likeliest entry using the very same Bollinger Bands. Now, when we observed our RSI indicator, also showed us a buy signal by going towards 70. At the very same time, the RSI indicator is currently busy coming down towards 50, where we are expected to change direction at 50 so that we can finally buy our share right there. So both the Bollinger Bands and at the very same time our RSI indicator are telling us to buy the share of Pick and Pay, given that the overall market bias is on the buying side, it's not on the selling side. Do you guys have a share that you would like for me to analyze yet again using these two indicators? Can I get a share that I can analyze? AGL. Let us analyze Anglo AGL CFD. I'm also using the 1-day chart. Remember, I have a 1-day chart which I am using. Now. So AGL. Now, with regards to AGL, I'm going to start first by looking at my green lines which are separating the months. Now I'm going to start by drawing a line at the highest point of the month of April there, which is going to be my area of resistance. Now my analysis is going to be based on whatever is going to happen on the current month so that I can get an opportunity to either buy or sell the share. So that top line, which is the highest point of the month of April, is going to be my resistance. Then my bottom or the lowest price reached for the month of April is going to be my support. So there you have it. I have an area of resistance there for the previous month, which is the highest point, and an area of support, which is the lowest point, which was reached over the previous month. Now we are trying to establish exactly how or what are our indicators saying with respect to this particular share here. Now let's start first with the Bollinger Bands. Now as you can see, the Bollinger Bands for the previous month actually went outside our upper volatility band, giving us a buying signal, right? It gave us a buying signal. From giving us a buying signal, what does it mean to you? What it means is that the high of the month of March was basically broken. Hence, the share is going outside, or it's moving outside the upper volatility band. But before I can enter into a share, I need to be entering the share the moment the share goes towards the moving average. Yes, indeed, the share did go towards the moving average. It never touched the moving average, but it went to the direction of the moving average, changed direction. And if I was to enter the share at that particular point, where would my target be? My target would have been this area of resistance, which is 318, right? 311 or 310. As you can see, the share went, or it's currently at 307. So if you did enter into a share, you would be profitable at this current stage. Maybe on Monday you would be reaching your target. So our month of April gave us a buying signal, and we should have waited for the share to go towards the moving average, enter around the moving average, and buy the share. Now if our indicator or the Bollinger Bands told us to buy this share, what does the RSI say? When you go to the RSI indicator now, the RSI indicator, the moment our upper volatility bands were broken and our share was moving above, as you can see, the RSI indicator was in the buying zone. It never reached the overbought zone. So our RSI indicator never gave us a signal to buy the share, even though the Bollinger Bands did give us a signal to buy the share. But what you can confirm for yourself is one thing. You can confirm this particular signal by looking at the fact that your RSI indicator is not in the sell side, but it's actually on the buying side of things. So I would have bought the share given that our RSI indicator actually changed direction at the area of 50, whilst our share itself was around the area of the moving average. So I would have taken that trade for a buy around those two particular areas there. So even though our RSI indicator never gave us a signal for the month of April, the Bollinger Bands did give us a signal. Our RSI indicator was in the buy zone, so I would have taken a trade for a buy. That is the analysis for our share there, AGL. Now, I had a request for another share, Mundi. Let's look at MND using the very same two indicators. Let's start with Mundi here. As you can see, the share of Mundi, I will draw a resistance line on the month of March. There's my highest point, which is resistance. There is my lowest point, which is the month. Now, as you can see here, looking at a plain chart, the month of April, the movement of the share for Mundi, Mundi's share price actually went outside the upper volatility band whilst breaking the resistance or the high of the month of March. So this movement outside the upper volatility band of the Bollinger Bands was actually a buy signal for us. But where do you buy? You do not buy into a share which is currently moving outside the upper volatility band. Rather, wait for it to come back to the moving average, which will be the area of our resistance. And as you can see, our share did come down to our moving average, and then it started going up, but it hasn't went even higher. Right now it's currently back at our very same moving average, so the signal is still strong on the buying side. It's not yet strong on the selling side of things. So if I was to confirm whatever that I see from my Bollinger Bands there, let's have a look at our RSI indicator. As you can see, our RSI indicator try to go towards 70 or above, but it did change direction, came down to 50. So when it hit our 50 area here, even though it went slightly below, our share was currently at the moving average of the Bollinger Bands. If you did take a trade for a buy around those current zones there, it did go up, you went into a slight profit. Now it's currently back towards the very same areas of your entry, but as you can see, our RSI indicator is still above 50, which is still our buying zone. So we would be expecting the share to further change direction here again and go even higher, because both our Bollinger Bands indicator and our RSI indicator are currently in the buying zones. So Mundi at this current stage, it's still a buy share, do not sell share, based on our analysis using the two indicators. Is there any question that I can answer for you guys before I end the session? Is there any question that I can answer? Any question? Is everyone comfortable? Okay, I see it is all clear. People actually understand how it is supposed to work hand in hand. Okay, so I would like to end our session for the day by telling you again my name. For those that came in late, my name is Gopolang, Hopolang. Some call me Kumbulani, some call me Remember. So I hope that you will have a profitable week going ahead, and you will be using your Bollinger Bands and RSI the very same way that we have just explained. Please do not be fooled by certain movements that occur in the market. So long as you have a signal that your indicators has just given you, then that is what the overall market bias is, and you do not want to be going against what the overall market is going. If the market is going on a sell and you have your sell signals, do consider selling the share as opposed to buying the share. If the market is on the buying side of things and your indicators are giving you buy signals, do consider buying the share as opposed to selling the share. And always remember that there are right areas in which you can enter into buying the share. You do not just buy the share simply because you have a signal. When using Bollinger Bands, your buying in or your entry point is going to be your middle line of the Bollinger Bands, which is our moving average. If you are using the RSI indicator, your most probable area of buying this actual share should be at the line of 50. Now remember that these lines, I've put them by myself. Your RSI indicator does not come with a 50 line, so you'll have to put this 50 line by yourself from the platform so that you can be in a position to pinpoint where's my 50 line, the one that I am most probably going to be using to identify where the buying section is. So from me to you, please enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a safe and profitable week ahead.